It's an honor to introduce to you all our chief guest, Mr. Rongyu. He is the Deputy Vice Chancellor of University of Queensland and is responsible for overall external engagements and UQ's global strategy. He is also the chair of the Vice Chancellor's Group, a subcommittee of Universities Australia, and also served as a board member for International Education Association of Australia, IEAA, for almost 8 years. Prior to joining UQ, he was the DVC and Vice President of University of Canberra, and before that, he was External Director at RMIT University and Deakin University. He is known for being very innovative. He has held senior leadership positions for more than a decade and dealing with international education across a number of institutes in Australia and New Zealand. Sir, we welcome you to New Delhi, and we are happy to have you among us. I would like you to come here and address the gathering. Thank you.
Good evening. My sincere thanks to AAERI for inviting me to the 23rd Annual Convention. It's great to actually see so many familiar faces. I think I've been around as long as AAERI. In fact, last time when I was here for the same convention, I brought Tom Karma back after 18 years of absence since he was posted here as probably the first education councillor for Australia. My talk probably is not going to be exciting as Tara and Caitlin's, but I do think we have the same message to deliver here. I'll see if this presentation works. Well, I think, tonight I'm representing the Deputy Vice Chancellor and Pro Vice Chancellor International Committee. It's a subcommittee of Universities Australia. I think this committee is primarily tasked to provide advice to the Vice Chancellor's Committee in its international engagement. If you look at actually UA's website, you see under Universities Australia there are 4 standing subcommittees. That's actually a reflection of University Australia's strategic engagement agenda. So it's a teaching learning, there's actually research, there's a corporate, that's all about university operations, and then the Deputy Vice Chancellor International Committee, which is actually responsible for the international education industry for Australia. But I can't justify my existence here if I don't talk about a little bit of University of Queensland. I think it's related. The university is a member of the group of 8 universities, and it's a top 50 university. It consistently ranked among the top 50 institutions in the world. And I think what's unique about UQ is it's traveling in parallel in both actually teaching quality and research outcome. We've been actually ranked consistently as #1 in Nature Index. And also, if you are familiar with the QUILT measure, the quality indicators, learning and teaching, University of Queensland consistently ranks as #1 in the group of 8 universities. And that's very difficult to do. Some universities do better in teaching, others do better in research, but we are traveling in parallel. So that's us. I'll make up for the lost time, so I won't actually read out that one. You can actually find that information on the university website. That's actually who we are, and that's why my message is very clear, and it's also actually the talk of tonight. That's what I'm going to talk about. Safeguarding Australia's quality education system is a shared responsibility. I don't think we can say as providers that it's our responsibility, or as agents or Home Affairs or Department of Education. I think it's everybody's business. That's the key message. The only thing I think, I need to emphasize is also is the education quality, is the system. It's not actually just ELICOS, schools, vet, or higher education. I think what's important is to protect and safeguard Australia's quality education system, and that's actually many years of many people's tireless work, to get here. So certainly, it's not in our interest to lose, that. And we will have to work very hard to make sure the reputation is not tarnished in any way. And I think it's worth actually pointing out, Australia is a quality education system, and we've got a framework. So if you look at actually what's on the screen, even though I think it's very difficult to see from the back, but we've got Ethos Act and National Code, and that has been actually revised and updated, many times, as you know, as you've been consulted about the code and the act. It's actually an aspect of international education of Australia that we're probably under-promoted. No other country has actually a system, an Overseas Education Service Act and a National Code. And we've got actually SSVF, provider risk rating. Those are not necessarily easy to put in place. I think, it is actually something that we need to talk up rather than actually, ignore. And we've got actually also very good data now. I think we become the envy of many other countries and systems. And Australia has got TPS. The Tuition Protection Scheme is actually an insurance mechanism that makes sure that students who are actually caught are refunded, with the fees, and they are placed in other providers. I mentioned, the education, the excellence in research, Australia, QUILT and ISB, lots of actually measures, lots of KPIs. And the other thing I want to talk about is actually the professional approach in terms of marketing, recruitment, application processing, admissions, compliance, orientation, enrollment plus support services. That was actually 3 decades of development. So Australian universities have international offices that are highly professional. So over the 3 decades, I think we've produced some very strong professionals, and we've got a significant pool of expertise. I still believe we do it better than every other country or every other provider. And the former Foreign Minister had an Australian global alumni strategy. So we don't actually just recruit. We actually have the from lead generation to actually application processing to enrollment to completion to actually engagement, it's becoming actually a very positive cycle. So that framework needs to be protected. Why do we need to safeguard, the quality education system? If you're actually, interested, you can actually log onto the TPS website, and you will find, and the college closes, there's actually a list of colleges shutting down and leaving students in limbo. And also, I think we've all actually heard the 2 occasions when ABC Four Corners, talk about the international education. The first one, I think, was back in 2016, degrees of deception. And then the second one that happened only just a little while ago, cash cows. You get a sense of actually how they actually sensationalize what we do, rather than actually talk up international education as a success story. You pick, what is actually a very small component, or probably, dodgy practice. I think we need to be actually very careful how we actually, constructively, try to work together to resolve challenges and issues, rather than actually turn to the media and sensationalize it. The other thing is globally, I don't think people actually remember individual institutions or individuals who actually do bad things. They actually reference the country. This photo I've got here, you know, on the right side of the screen, was actually taken when the protest was happening in Melbourne back in, you know, in 2009. I think, you know, we have all been in the sector long enough to have vivid memories of that, and it takes forever to actually recover from that. One thing actually I want to leave it here for all of us to remember is we are in it together. So this is not just actually my business or the department business or Home Affairs business or the agent's business. In fact, I was probably the first one to say, I don't see you as agents, because you are the extended arm of providers, so you are partners. And if we don't actually work together to safeguard it, nobody else is going to actually help us. In this day and age, even with digital disruption and the pace of change, it's becoming increasingly important because it's the quality, it's the ethical behavior, it's the professional service that's going to sustain us all. Quality, I believe, plus excellent customer service will actually, you know, make us last a lot longer. I think I've made up for time. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to working with you for many years to come.
Thank you, sir. Next, can I call our President of AAERI, Ravi Singh, onto the stage, please? You have 5 minutes, Ravi.
I think, Nishi, you take a big risk by calling me on the stage, and I think that's something which you've been adequately warned, and you're pre-warned now. Firstly, Rongyu, it was a fantastic presentation. This is the second time you are with us at our convention in two different roles. Once you accompanied our chief guest, today you are the chief guest. And honestly, the basic content, the message which came out of your presentation about protecting our industry is a shared responsibility. I fully agree with it. And certainly as agents, as members of this pretty who've seen a couple of decades of this work, we have worked hand in hand with education providers, institutions, the various stakeholders, and especially the government bodies, both in Australia and India, and that's how this industry has been kept on its foundations and living. And there is no other example in the world of a body like AAERI in any country whatsoever. So thank you very much, Rongyu, for reassuring us, and we'll certainly do some of the advice that you've made. Good evening, everyone. The AAERI annual get-together or convention that we have been doing in Delhi has become certainly a looked-forward-to event. One of the advantages of not speaking as a president is that we can say anything. Now, once you come in to speak as a president, we've got to really weigh each word before we really utter it. The fact that AAERI team has had continuity, you can almost see clockwork teamwork between the previous group of AAERI executives, the leadership, and my role. My role has actually become very easy. I've had nothing to do. Everything's been put together perfectly, and we have over 250 members in this hall today, which covers all aspects of our industry. AAERI is on the ground and is able to smell the smoke before it burns down anyone or any house. So what happens is the AAERI's role is very unique. We are sometimes able to gauge and assess a problem before the impact is felt at any other end. Last year at this convention, AAERI had put out an advisory on the medium of instruction letters. AAERI delegations which traveled across various forums in Australia, talked about them and how they could endanger the brand of Australian education generally. And I want to thank most universities who listened to us and were able to make changes in their own internal mechanisms, and that led to a lot of problems being nipped right at where it could have caused further damage to the industry. In February of this year, the Minister, Mr. Tehan, he wrote to most Vice Chancellors on the same topic of adhering to certain levels of English or English language tests. And then, of course, it got picked up and rightfully mentioned by our chief guest in the Four Corners report, which did feature me too. My role in the Four Corners report was very, very specific. It was not to pin the blame on anybody, but it was largely to safeguard our own interests. The previous Four Corners report, which was mentioned, which happened in 2016, we don't even know what we are going to face. And so the discussion was all around the role of agents in supplying students with lower English skills. And that's where the discussions happened. I wanted to mention this at this forum because since yesterday, there have been a number of questions around the Four Corners report and the role of AAERI. And that was the AAERI's role per se. There was work already in process. Some of the members have felt, and this is, the work was already in the pipeline and it's been going on. Let me list some of the achievements that we've had over the last 12 months. Now, almost every single Australian university is paying GST on the invoices. This is a very significant achievement of AAERI over the last 12 months. I have now been approached by New Zealand agents to help them collect together and help them lobby with their own universities so that they could be paid GST on their commission invoices. And I think I want to thank universities where we worked on a shared responsibility basis, and most universities have been able to support us in that mission. It's quite significant in that aspect. I can also share here that the Indian government introduced a bill to regulate proposed a bill to regulate Indian agents. AAERI had a role to play in that bill too, and we were able to put in a submission and make slight modifications in the bill. We would hope that the bill goes through the parliament, and that bill will provide a kind of a list of agents which have some kind, it may not be perfect, but at least there will be one step further in that direction. One huge advantage in that bill is that the bill refers to education agents as education agent. It doesn't make them human smugglers or travel agents as the bill in Punjab does. So there is a registration and licensing process in Punjab which clusters education agents as human smuggler. It's called some travel agent bill or something like that. But this one is particularly and only related to education agents. And we are working with the Indian government in that regard. Of course, the Indian government has several other priorities before it arrives at this bill, but hopefully one day it will also see light. Peter Vargas's report was mentioned at some point of time, and certainly it identified education as a prime bind. And Rongyu, Peter is at your university. Peter has been a well-wisher and supporter of AAERI during his tenure in Delhi. That was the launching pad for the work that we are doing on the South Asia project. We are working with a group of 3 independent consultants, and I'll certainly name them and acknowledge their role here. We've got Professor Wood, John Wood. He is not here. He is, I don't know whether he may be joining us from Australia. Dr. John Duncan and Mr. John McPartland. And I'll tell you that the word John, I've started to like this word a bit too much. And like we differentiate between them as doctor, professor, and Mr. And one of the biggest advantages, and I think I want to really thank the three of them for agreeing to do this project without charging a single dollar from us. And I think we do very well when we have negotiators who are from Gujarat. They managed to get us a very good deal. Now we've got three consultants who have worked several months tirelessly, 3 or 4 trips into this region, traveling around the place, and they have been working and interviewing various members across the spectrum and trying to put together a roadmap for our sector for the next 5 months. I think there's a lot of expectation from your report, Johns, and thank you very much for giving us this time on this project. And I'm sure Peter would love to see the report too, because he had worked on the 2035 draft. This is a 2025 draft, but we are taking on from that particular report which was put together. And of course, in Peter's report, there were several recommendations. Some of them have already started getting implemented. I attended the function at the Calcutta Consulate, which was one of the recommendations, and working with the Consulate General. In fact, I took off his label pin and brought it on, put it on my jacket from that meeting itself. I said, I need one, I really like yours. And so that's how closely we work with the government departments at this level. One of the other recommendations that Peter made related to the education sector was a concern around the non-recognition of Australian qualification. And I want to thank the Department of Education and their local team in Delhi for the hard work that they did over the last 8 or 10 years. It's not easy. Anybody who has worked with, I live in Sydney these days and people complain about Australian bureaucracy. If you have worked in India, then you'll know exactly what bureaucracy means. Here, we've been working with different government, different department, different bureaucrats. Every time we have been revising the same draft, telling them exactly the same thing. They come up with an MOU, which is exactly the same MOU as they came back 10 years ago. Only a few words changed, and you really take out the MOU which India signed with them and take out another which was signed about 20 years ago, 9 out of 10 points will be exactly the same. So what we have arrived now is quite a landmark. Now at least the Department of Education has been able to work with the system, and now the document which says that Australian pathway-led qualifications will be recognized. And believe me, it gives some of us a lot of joy. We don't want to claim any credit here, but I believe some credit is due to AAERI too. We worked hand in hand with the department for last many, many years with the various councillors in position here, and even we did some parallel activities. If you attended our convention last year, you would recall that Dr. Shashi Tharoor made a plea to the Indian Minister of HRD, and that was quite a good plea case that he had made for recognizing Australian qualification. There is still some groundwork to be done. We still want our master's qualification of less than 2 years to be recognized in India. And I think there is work which we can do together as part of shared responsibility. And also at the same time, there is a part of work which Universities Australia need to do, Rongyu, in your role as chair, that it's not a blanket approval. It requires the universities to fix the transcripts or something like that, so that the credits taken from a pathway are reflected in a way that the Indian government wants. I think we still have some groundwork to complete. Work has been done in the Indian end over the last many years. Some work is required at the Australian end too, and again, we can work in a shared manner in getting that sorted out. So thank you very much to the DOE team, fantastic set of people with whom we have worked for last 23 years. I can go on about a number of other things. We have made a petition to regarding TAFE sector. It is still a work in progress. We are working on trying to revive we are making a case that the TAFE data is not classified along with the other private vet data collection so that the regulations treat TAFE slightly differently. We are working with the TAFE directors in Australia, and hopefully we will be part of a good story in the coming months. In February, we visited Canberra, met with the various officials at the Department of Education and also Department of Home Affairs. You guys keep changing your abbreviations, acronyms so frequently. Just this morning, I was referring to Department of Education as DAT, and I was corrected that is no longer DAT, it is Department of Education. So let's stick to Department of Education for some time. So, yeah, Tara, they are Department of Education. You referred to them as DAT in your presentation. Yeah, they've changed. Okay, I was listening very carefully. Okay. Okay, fair enough. So in February of this month, we met with the various members, and there was a proposal to make agent data public. We have nothing against transparency. We like transparency, but we would prefer transparency of correct data. And that's exactly the plea that we made. And I want to thank the department and the Canberra for listening to AAERI and considering our request. And I believe things are being put into the way that we can accept. So this is a way forward on this. While we are here, I obviously want to thank, I keep forgetting that there are several individuals in this hall who have worked hand in hand on putting those things. The submissions to Government of India regarding the regulation of agents was handled by Rupesh Patel and Balaji. Thank you very much, Rupesh and Balaji. You've been fantastic. They worked very hard on doing it. The South Asia project has been handled almost single-handedly by Rahul. Rahul, I mean, it's no mean achievement. The level of appointments you were able to secure for AAERI and for our consultants. Single-handedly, you were able to put that together. So thank you very much on that aspect. Where's Bubbly? Bubbly would be somewhere around. I mean, we can't have any event without Bubbly. Okay? He is very close to the bubbles anyway. So any event without Bubbly is not possible. He's been a great support for AAERI in Delhi, organizing events, activities. Thank you very much, Bubbly. AAERI is one of the great achievements is a very active AAERI Nepal chapter. This was a dream almost 10 years ago. We wanted the AAERI to spread across South Asia as independent. See, we are not trying to set up, I don't want to roll in that. We wanted to spread our ethos there. So AAERI Nepal chapter, I think you guys, you deserve fantastic 1 year. Where are you? Dviraj, Mahesh, the entire team. Fantastic, great job. And I think the bigger job is that AAERI has been instrumental in bringing all the different agent associations of Nepal together to be able to put the AAERI brand in front of them and ahead of the commercial interests. So thank you very much, Bigyan from Nair, and also, where is Vishnu? Vishnu from ECAN. Fantastic. This would be probably the only event where you can see all of them sitting here together. They were in a bar together yesterday night too. So that's fantastic. This is the way AAERI would like to be seen as the one which is spreading itself across the region. AAERI Australia chapter. Last year in October we inaugurated it. Where is Sonia? Beautiful. Where's Sonia? Hi. So Sonia, Rupesh, Duggal, Shayaz, Dhavanji, the entire team out there, fantastic. We are trying to have a chapter in Australia so that they can keep airing our perspective in Australia. They've all been in this trade for over 10 years, 15 years, and this is, or maybe 20, 25 years, and they're doing a great job. They're located. We are now setting up chapter in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, and trying to take it further in that direction. And again, the departments were great. They, in fact, inaugurated our chapters in October last year. The communication that you received from AAERI has been streamlined. The work that Balaji and Rupesh Patel do in that direction is fantastic. Your messages reach you. We are trying to streamline everything through a General Secretary and Secretariat. So Balaji and Rupesh Patel have been taking out our messages all throughout and across the board. Kishore is not here, but accountant's job is the toughest of all. Any entrepreneur will tell you, or anybody with idea will tell you, that we love spending money, but we don't know anything about accounts. And in our India, we've got GST and a whole lot of those factors. That's why Kishore is instrumental in doing that, but he is not here. And so, of course, in his absence, we want to still thank him, and that's a great job. The toughest role within AAERI is that of a disciplinary committee. A disciplinary committee role is the one where I want to sit far away. They are the one who pull up agents. They are the one who send them notices, they terminate, they suspend, and they do all kinds of nonsense. I don't like them, guys. But we have Nirmalji right here, and very ably supported by Nishi from time to time. Nishi is great, obviously, on the stage, but he does a lot of work behind the stage too. So we have been able to handle a number of issues this year. Very tough one. I'm not here to name agents or do whatever. We have been able to address issues right from police complaint to suspensions, bringing them back into the fore, a concern regarding a firewall between education testing and student recruitment. And so there's a lot of great work which is being done by Nirmalji. I think I've covered most of you. Rupesh Patel, I mentioned. I'm not finished, guys. Still got some thanks to do. One more thank I want to make here. The person is not here in this hall, Luann Hancock. Luann's role with AAERI has been great here. If anybody from Luann's office is here, please tell her in Australia, we remember her. Her level of energy, I or none of us have. Luann was fantastic in taking up our matter in Canberra, going with us to almost all the points and arguing along with us. So Luann, thank you very much. Wherever you might be, the message goes out to you. I won't really go on too long. I've been told that I've gone well beyond what I have to speak. And these days they really cut me off here so that I don't raise anything controversial. But I won't end without telling you what's in my mind space. There are two issues which are bothering me. The first is the advisory that we have issued from AAERI very recently around the role of principal agents and why they need to take it up very seriously. They are principal agents of universities for a reason, and if they are appointing sub-agents, they still need to be very fully accountable. We've just heard Tara talk about outsourcing the visa part of the thing to a third sub-agent. That's absolutely unacceptable. We have worked very hard on it. Rahul has done a lot of homework over the last 7 weeks. Rahul, 7 weeks, right, on that advisory through various subject experts, and now we are going to be taking it up very vigorously over the next 6 months. So let me tell you today that we are following that advisory of ours for the next 12 months or 6 months. We've had newspaper articles on that advisory. This advisory is not very helpful for some institutions and some agents, and I'm willing to take the blame for it. But it is the way forward for our sector. And the second issue that's bothering us is the student movement onshore. The student movement onshore has an immediate impact on the agents because our commissions are clawed back. We lose commissions. And the role of retention is not of an offshore agent. We have to find a solution to this. So these two things will continue to hog my mind space. And you know how it is, it's pretty volatile. Especially when I've got all my executives who do almost all the work. I don't have to do any of this work, so I've got to employ myself in doing something else. And guys, what you see here, this is a great joy of this year. Your association is a finalist as Association of the Year at the Pi Awards next month. It's a massive achievement, guys. From an agent association, which was at one time, agents were meant to be dodgy, agents were meant to be doing whatever. Today, we are a finalist at the Pi Awards next month. Whether we win it or not, that's not so important. Why I'm putting this condition is, whom are we competing against? The other association which are in the finalists, and I think let me tell you who they are. There's American International Recruitment Council. There is Universities UK. There is Australian Universities International Directors Forum. There is English Australia, and there is AAERI. Now, when you really put that into picture, we are in very good company here. As absolutely that an agent association is considered at par for consideration along with Universities UK, AUIDF, English Australia, and the works. So fantastic, well done guys, great being here, and I think I'll let it go for now before I say something else. Fantastic, and thank you very much.